Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poison in their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that role to the poor. Lord, yeah. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns in chess. Wait till judgment day comes, oh Lord, yeah. Now in darkness, world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power, hand of God has struck the hour. Day of judgment, God is calling, on their knees the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for their sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. And I hope everybody is doing well out there. I hope you had a great weekend and are off to the great start of the week. A little bit different background today. We're doing some construction here in the studio, my garage. My studio, I built in my garage. I'm kind of renovating things to kind of give a better appeal and look a little bit better. I don't know, just new mics, everything like that. So all of that stuff's happening this week. So just mind me with the construction in the background. It's just a black wall. That's really all it is. And the Myrmidon with the the cable hanging out of his mouth. I had to cover it up somehow. But I hope everybody is having a great day out there. And man, there is so much going on. It's crazy to like step back and look at it all because there's so many intricate pieces. And I mean, what I typically do is I look at Donald Trump and I look at what is revolving around him, the people and the influence revolving around him, the things he's saying and the things he's doing. And I try to coordinate that with what I'm watching unfold in the world, if that makes sense. But man, we got rats on his side, rats to the left of him, rats to the left, right. We got infiltrators all throughout our government. But then we see that things are actually happening in the world, that we are moving towards a multipolar world. We have the new national security strategy that came out. We're going to talk a little bit about this. It's pretty incredible because even with all of the impedance that Trump is getting, he's still able to get things done. John Kidd, Badlands pays good. No, not Badlands, buddy. Sorry. Not that they don't. Just it's not even. It's about that. For me, that Badlands is just about the shows. I really enjoy doing those shows, and it's just I don't know. I like doing a show with Alpha, so it's kind of what Badlands is about. So we start today with kind of a deco that I talked about last night on Q After Hours. And if you've ever seen the movie Last of Mohicans, this goes to Q Post 4560. There's a video that takes you to the Last of Mohicans, and the song is Promontory. Now, I didn't know of this until I watched it, or until I kind of went into this and dug in this a little bit. But a promontory is a high cliff or elevated landform that juts out into the landscape. It has a symbolic meaning. The symbolic meaning is the point of no return, the moment where fate is decided. And immediately when I kind of like was just looking through this last night, I said, right before Q After Hours, I said, oh my goodness, that reminds me of something. That reminds me of this Truth Social post that Donald Trump put out on October 2nd, 2025. Yeah, it's Batman, but he's on the promontory. He is on the high cliff or elevated landform that juts out into the landscape. The point of no return, the moment where fate is decided. And I swear that this is where we are at right now. And I see Jimmy Bird right here in the Rumble chat. He says, Josh, ain't no one been arrested yet. Trump is just running interferences. Well, it's not Trump, but I think change is coming. So I think that what we will see here, and I would say in the next 30 days, I think we're going to see some massive change because there's a lot of pushback on Donald Trump to make these changes. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that tonight and why this makes a lot of sense. But, you know, at the end of the day, and don't take this to read into this a little bit. At the end of the day, there's only three scenarios. The scenarios unfolding, the scenario of the unfolding global conspiracy of one of three things. We are fucked. They are fucked. We're all fucked. Happy holidays. It's the truth. Or at least it should be. I don't see any coincidence. I don't see that the globalists get to kind of do their thing still while we get our freedom. It doesn't work that way. Everybody has the sovereignty. We have to move this world into what today's show is, the multipolar world, to where each nation state derives their own individualized sovereignty. And this is so interesting because this is what we've talked about for the longest time in the context of the two competing new world orders. So if you're new here, if you haven't been listening very long, for the last 5 years, we've been talking about the two competing new world orders. Number one is the old guard European Union, European aristocracy, New World Order. This is through the Rothschild banking cartels. This is through the IMF, the World Bank. This is through United Nations, all of these bad actors. This is what the United States was on track for, being controlled and pushed into this method. China was a surrogate headquarters for this New World Order, but this is your commie-fascist, oligarchical controlled New World Order with a technocratic state. That's what we were headed towards. And I always said that the competition for this is where each state, each nation retains its own individualized sovereignty and work together for a multipolar world. And if you saw Donald Trump's newest national security strategy, whew, it's big. It is probably the single greatest document that the Trump administration has put out this year. John Harold on X says the new national security strategy of the United States of America has finally been published. A quote from the national security strategy. This is a quote from it. Our elites badly miscalculated America's willingness to shoulder forever global burdens to which the American people saw no connection to the national interest. And they lashed American policy to a network of international institutions, some of which are driven by outright anti-Americanism, and many by a transnationalism that explicitly seeks to dissolve individual state sovereignty. Wow. I'm actually going to pull that up because I think that this is so important to discuss here. Let me pull this up real quick. No, that's not what I wanted. Right there. Okay. I could read this whole thing for you. It's very long. And we're going to zoom in. Just look at this. After the end of the Cold War, American foreign policy elites convinced themselves that permanent American domination of the entire world was in the best interest of our country. Yet the affairs of other countries are our concern only if their activities directly threatened our interests. Our elites badly miscalculated America's willingness to shoulder forever global burdens to which the American people saw no connection to the national interest. They overestimated America's ability to fund simultaneously a massive welfare regulatory administration state alongside a massive military, diplomatic, intelligence, and foreign aid complex. They placed hugely misguided and destructive bets on globalism and so-called free trade that hollowed out the very middle class to industrial base on which American economic and military preeminence depend. They allowed allies and partners to offload the cost of their defense on the American people and sometimes to suck us into conflicts and controversies central to their interests but peripheral or irrelevant to our own. And they lashed American policy to a network of international institutions, some of which are driven by outright anti-Americanism and many by transnationalism that explicitly seeks to dissolve individual state sovereignty. And some, not only did our elites pursue a fundamentally undesirable and impossible goal, in doing so, they undermined the very means necessary to achieve that goal, the character of our nation upon which its power, wealth, and decency were built. This document is unlike anything we've seen from the Trump administration thus far. It is a game changer because it outlines where Trump, Hegseth, Rubio, where they envision this country going, what the next 5 to 10 year plan is. Another quote, first and foremost, we want the continued survival and safety of the United States as an independent sovereign republic whose government secures the God-given natural rights of its citizens and prioritizes the well-being and interest. That is simply the definition of what I've been talking about a multipolar world order. We want to protect this country, its people, its territory, its economy, and its way of life from military attack and hostile foreign influence, whether espionage, predatory trade practices, drug and human trafficking, destructive propaganda, and influence operations, cultural subversion, or any other threat to our nation. I'll say that last line last line again, because it's really important. Destructive propaganda and influence operations, cultural subversion, and any other threat to our nation. We want to maintain the United States' unrivaled soft power through which we exercise positive influence throughout the world that furthers our interest. The United States will unapologetically protect our own sovereignty. This includes preventing its erosion by transnational and international organizations, attempts by foreign powers or entities to censor our discourse or curtail our citizens' free speech rights, lobbying and influence operations that seek to steer our policies or involve us in foreign conflicts, and the cynical manipulation of our immigration system to build up voting blocs loyal to foreign interests within our country. The United States will chart our own course in the world and determine our own destiny free from outside interference. This is huge. Now, you compile this on board with what the United States Army just announced, a convergence of Northcom and Southcom into the Western Hemisphere Command. That's primary responsibility is to protect the United States of America from invasion, to assist law enforcement and other types of enforcement actions within our border and inside the United States of America. It's almost like the Trump administration took kind of a more of a, not an isolationist perspective, but more of a centralist perspective, and said, hey, look, the world's got its problems. We're not here to solve them. We don't care to solve them. We don't want to solve them. You can have your wars, want nothing to do with it. If it interferes with our trade, if it interferes with our people, our rights, our sovereignty, then it's our problem. But until then, have fun. Have fun. Go do whatever you want. We don't care. Not our problem. Unless you exist in our hemisphere. If you exist in our hemisphere, keep Russia and China and India the hell out. You're going to do business with us. That's basically, in a nutshell, what's being said here. So there's a few points. I was going to read this whole thing about what they want. Alpha covered this part last night, but I wanted to bring this up. Actually, I already talked about this one. The United States will unapologetically protect our own sovereignty. This includes the erosion by transnational and international organizations. In other words, we're already seeing the Trump administration take a new approach towards multinational and transnational organizations, NGOs, and how they operate in the infrastructure of government. There's actually a Supreme Court case going on right now. And I don't think people truly realize the importance of this Supreme Court case. But I hope to tell you about it. I've been writing a blog about it the last 2 days. And this is huge, but I'll just read this for you. Something historic is unfolding. Quietly, almost deceptively. Inside the marble halls of the Supreme Court, while headlines frame it as a dispute over the Federal Trade Commission and Trump's authority to fire agency heads, the truth reaches much different. This case, if decided in favor of unitary executive, could fundamentally alter the architecture of the federal government as we know it. This is also known as what we call the fourth branch of government. This is the lobby. This is the quasi-federal organizations, the FTC, the Federal Reserve Bank. This is NGOs and their influence and capabilities over the executive branch and over Congress. It's not about the FTC. It's about the entire administrative state. It's about the delegation of constitutional powers. And yes, if followed to its logical end, it's about the Federal Reserve. This is a battle over who actually governs the United States of America. Elected officials accountable to the people, or unelected bureaucracies insulated from them. So this decision coming out with the Supreme Court right now, this case can mark the moment of a century-long expansion of the fourth branch of government and have it begin to be dismantled. The founders gave us 3 branches of government. Washington, D.C., later built a fourth. The Constitution is stunningly clear. All legislative power is vested in Congress. All executive power is vested in the president. All judicial power is vested in the courts. There is no mention of independent agencies, no Federal Reserve, no alphabet super regulatory commissions. This is called the vested clause, or the vesting clause. The founders never imagined and would have never agreed upon and likely opposed a government where bureaucratic bodies could write rules with the force of law, enforce those same rules, and adjudicate disputes under them. To the framers, this would have been a definition of tyranny, not governance. Yet by the early 20th century, Americans began constructing something new, something the Constitution didn't authorize, yet courts allowed to grow. An unelected layer of government with legislative, executive, and judicial powers combined into the one. This is what many now call the fourth branch of government. How we got here? Delegation, crisis, power, convenience. The administration state didn't appear overnight. It evolved slowly, always justified by necessity. You had the Civil War centralization. You have the industrialization and progressive reforms. 1913, the Federal Reserve Act. 1914, the Federal Trade Commission. 1930s, the New Deal explosion of agencies. By the end of the FDR's presidency, the federal government was something the founders would hardly recognize. A sprawling bureaucracy where Congress wrote frameworks and left details to regulators, where monetary authority belonged not to Congress but to the Federal Reserve, and where the president could not fire many of the officials who exercised executive power. The Supreme Court cemented the shift in 1935 with Humphrey's Executor versus the United States, ruling that Congress could insulate agency heads from presidential motives in presidential removal. With a single decision, unelected administrators gained permanence. Power shifted away from voters and towards bureaucracy. The fourth branch became real. Enter today, a direct challenge to the 90-year precedent. Trump's argument is straightforward. If the Constitution vests executive power in the president, no agency should operate beyond presidential control. Makes sense. If the court agrees, it just doesn't affect the FTC. It strikes the legal foundation that protects every interagency from the EPA, SEC, to the NLRB, to the FDA, to the Federal Reserve. And then comes the quiet giant in the room, the Federal Reserve. Because if the president must retain removal power over executive officials, it raises the next constitutional question. How can the Federal Reserve, which controls monetary policy, inflation, interest rates, and the value of the dollar, remain insulated from presidential authority? No one in the official circles wants to say it yet, but the logic is unavoidable. If Trump wins this case, the Fed's independence becomes a legal domino waiting to fall. Why this could be the most significant power shift since 1913. Imagine the implications of restoring original non-delegation principles. You remember Donald Trump when he was talking about the best times of our country from 1872 to 1912? Remember when he said this? Teddy Roosevelt, the tariff. Best times of our country. Why? Because it was in 1912, 1913, 1916 that everything changed, that the regulatory bodies were added in. It's when our country fundamentally changed in its power structure. Congress may be forced to reclaim power it outsourced. That's huge. Agencies may lose autonomy and return under presidential direction. Monetary sovereignty constitutionally belonging to Congress may be re-examined. The Fed, as constructed today, only exists because courts have allowed delegation of power theories to persist. If those theories crack under the Supreme Court ruling, the ground under the Federal Reserve suddenly looks less permanent. We could see presidential authority to hire and fire Fed governors, congressional reevaluation of money creation delegation, increased transparency and accountability, potential restructuring and nationalization of the central bank, debate on restoring metallic or asset-backed currency standards. I know. The return of Article 1 monetary sovereignty. Even whispering 10 years ago was taboo, but today it's reality. This case is not about just one agency. It's about who runs America. For a century, we've lived in a dual reality, a constitutional republic on paper and a bureaucratic technocracy in practice. Presidents change, Congress change, but the agencies remain, often pursuing agendas independent of electoral will. If the Supreme Court returns executive power to the president, two major consequences follow. Bureaucrats become accountable again. The era of untouchable regulatory authority begins to close. And this brings us full circle. Trump isn't asking for the right to fire the FTC commissioner. He's opening the door to reclaim control of the administrative state itself. And what's another word for the administrative state? The deep state. See, what's being debated in the Supreme Court right now, if they align with Donald Trump, it's the end of the deep state. It becomes completely dismantled. This doesn't just apply to the Federal Reserve. This applies to NGOs, think tanks, The question before the court is bigger than policy. It's philosophical. The Supreme Court must decide, should governing power belong to the people through elected officials, or should it remain with the bureaucratic institutions that outlast every election, the deep state? This isn't a legal argument. This is a decision about what America is. A constitutional republic or a managerial deep state. My computer's going a little crazy over here. One answer means reform. The other means revolution, truly. We may be witnessing the beginning of a new era. If the court sides with Trump, historians may look back at this moment as the end of the independent agency era, the rebalancing of federal authority, the first rollback of the fourth branch, the opening crack in Federal Reserve independence, and a restoration of constitutional separation of power. It would not happen overnight, but it would begin. Not since 1913 has America been this close to reevaluating who controls its currencies, its agencies, its bureaucracies, and ultimately its future. When the stakes are high, silence is strategic, but awareness is powerful. We are at a turning point right now with this. This is bigger than we could ever imagine. And the first arguments were heard today with the Supreme Court. And this is why I said the scenario of the unfolding global conspiracy is one of three things. We're fucked, they're fucked, we're all fucked. But I think they're fucked. Now, how does that play into the national security strategy? It is everything. If President Trump can take back the executive powers that are granted to him through the United States Constitution, that he can fire and hire whomever he wants within the executive branch and within these quasi-federal organizations. He can eliminate and eradicate the deep state. He can fire the infiltrators that are known within our government. He can go out there and renegotiate new contracts within our government. Not only that, is that when you start to align that with the national security strategy, one part of the national security strategy was very, very apparent. It didn't like Europe very much. What do I mean by that? Europe was on the turning block. I'm going to read some quotes that John posted directly from the national security strategy. Should present trends continue, the continent will be unrecognizable in 20 years or less. As much, it is far from obvious whether certain European countries will have economies and military strong enough to remain reliable allies. Many of these nations are currently doubling down on their present path. The Trump administration finds itself at odds with European officials who hold unrealistic expectations for a war perched in unstable minority governments, many of which trample on basic principles of democracy to suppress opposition. A large European majority wants peace, yet that desire is not translated into policy, in large measure because of those governments' subversion of democratic processes. This is strategically important to the United States precisely because European states cannot reform themselves if they are trapped in a political crisis. And he's talking directly about the European Union here. And what do we get today? We get to talk about the move away from NATO. What do we get? Washington just told Europe 2027, and you're on your own. Behind closed doors in D.C. this week, Pentagon officials delivered the message that landed Europe delegations like a controlled detonation. 2027, Europe must take over the majority of NATO's conventional defense or the U.S. starts pulling back. Not out of NATO entirely. We are. It's going to be coming fast. But out of the wiring. The planning cells, coordination teams, and behind-the-curtain machinery that makes NATO function. According to the diplomats in the room, the tone was unambiguous. Lead or lose the umbrella. Here's the real story. Stripped of the diplomatic varnish, the U.S. has run out of patience. Washington doesn't like Europe has moved fast enough since 2022. Yup, spending is up. Yup, factories are humming again. But the Pentagon's view is blunt. Europe still can't field an ISR, air defenses, munition output, or command infrastructure needed to resist Russia without American scaffolding. No one in the room could explain how progress will be measured. There's no metric, no checklist, no treaty language. Just the deadline. 1 year, 2027. General Michael Flynn put out this weekend, pulling out at the right time. It is time for the United States to pull out of NATO and refocus on enemies that are inside our own gates. NATO nations minus the U.S. is essentially the European Union. They want globalism. They want fascism. They want Islamism. They want open borders. They want censorship. They want our money, and they need our military. They need us. We don't need them. That's funny, General Flynn. That's a quote that I think I had about a year ago, is that NATO is out the door, that Europe has sealed the deal. And this was all about the dismantling of the old guard infrastructure. You got to remember, the European Union was about the old guard establishing their European Union, about the North American Union, European Union, Asian Union. This was about specifically drawn in globalism. And then Brexit happened and they all got fucked. Well, they've been trying to hold on, but it's been crumbling. You have an unelected bureaucracy that runs the European Union that dictates policy and regulation over sovereignty and freedom. The nations within the European Union are not free sovereign nations, even though they believe themselves to be, because they can be overruled by an unelected bureaucracy, just like the United Nations. And that was the whole point, what they were trying to create. This administration recognizes it, sees it, and saying, Europe, you're not an ally. You don't bring anything to the table. Now, if you go back to some of our conversations earlier in this year, when we talked about the fight right now is resource allocation. Who can claim as many resources as possible? And it's an AI war between the United States and China. That's it. The United States and China. They're the only two players on the table right now. With that being said, our alliances, when we start to look at them, what are the countries in the world that, if we allied with, could help us defeat China? There's only one. There is only one country, Russia. If we had all of NATO, all of Africa, all of South America, and we went to fight Russia and China, it would be one hell of a fight. And there's no guarantee we would win. If we had the United States and Russia, China wouldn't even fight. There's no reason even to play the game. That's the strategic thinking that you're seeing coming from the Trump administration. We know there's backdoor deals going on between Kirill Dmitriev, General Michael Flynn, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin. But this is why you're also seeing European rhetoric pump up towards Russian aggression. So you had last week the former Defense Secretary Ben Wallace calling for Crimea to be strangled. Rogozin called the UK deadly dangerous and told Russian oligarchs to keep their kids out of British schools. So we're seeing this massive East versus West Europe conflict brewing, where who is going to be the leader of the continent of Europe? Is it going to be Russia? Or is it going to be the European Union, an unelected group of bureaucrats who pretend to rule over sovereign nations and then take their sovereignty away through policy and regulation? Ukraine is that battleground. And I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, hey, I think that Russia is going to go all the way to Odessa and take back the river. I said, yep, you're absolutely right. Putin has been greenlit by Trump. Have fun. Zelensky is meeting with London, 10 Downing Street. He's not even reading the agreements that Trump is sending over. Trump is done with him. But then you got to ask yourself why there's $300 billion worth of aid going to him in the next National Defense Authorization Act. That thing needs to be canceled. All right. But what does that have to do with Venezuela, Josh? I'm glad you asked. It has everything to do with everything. All of this is interconnected, intertwined. All of this is directly associated with each other. We're going to do a quick little, I got to get a sip of water, so give me 1 second here. Man, water's so good. Guys, holidays are coming up. If you're interested in this, check out Rumble. You're going to see all of this information on Rumble. Chicago Steak Company Top 2% of beef in America, USDA Prime and Premium Angus, hand cut by master butchers. The kind of hand cut by master butchers, the kind of marbling that hits a hot pan and fills the whole house with that smell, that buttery meat goodness. You know the one. Spend $229 on any holiday order, and your gift arrives at your loved one's door with 6 free petite ribeyes plus free shipping. That's $240 in premium steak, absolutely free. Then there's the unboxing, a black and gold gift box worth unwrapping, packed with dry ice, smoke rolling out when they crack it open. Christmas morning energy. It's not just another sweater, it's dinner that becomes a memory. mychicagosteak.com/rumble. Use code RUMBLE, RUMBLE. Again, mychicagosteak.com/rumble. The code, the use, RUMBLE, RUMBLE. And by the way, if anybody is looking for a Christmas gift for me, that right there, perfect. I'll take it. All right, there was a video I posted the other day. Lara Logan was on Redacted, and I think it was probably one of the best 15 minutes that you probably would watch if you wanted to watch something outside of the Daily Dose or Badlands. But I want to read this to you. Lara Logan here. What many people do not realize is that the narco states like Venezuela are using drugs as an instrument of unrestricted warfare, and together with other foreign nations like Iran and China, they are flooding the U.S. with narcotics that are more and more deadly to destabilize, destroy from within. The drugs today are made in a lab where they can be chemically altered at will. Drug warfare is not new. Just ask the Chinese how they lost Taiwan to the British. But most important of all, it is only one line of operation. The money from those terrorist organizations is being used to steal elections all over the world, including the U.S. Venezuela is the epicenter because they created the electronic voting systems and software in use today, working with Cuban intelligence. And thanks to Americans' domestic enemies, they inserted a trained, violent, foreign paramilitary force inside the U.S. through the internationally open border. This is the army of the deep state, along with hundreds of thousands of trained members of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, Iranian operatives from the IRGC, and so on. If you think cartels are just criminal drug dealers, now think about the fact that Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles was instrumental in fraudulently installing Joe Biden as president, working with this nation's domestic enemies. Do you think the CIA or the deep state want to give that up? Not a chance. Right now, they are doing everything in their power to preserve their hold, to include trying to select who will replace Maduro and the rest of his inner circle. Meanwhile, the Cubans are reported to have an insurgent force already in place to counter whoever is chosen, unless that person already belongs to the cartel. This is not just about drug votes. It's about the restoring of elections worldwide so your vote actually matters. It's about ending drug warfare so you or your kids do not die on this battlefield. It's about dismantling the Marxist command and control for Central and South America. And it is about shutting down the money that finances everything from the theft of our elections to the foreign army of the deep state to bribery and corruption of U.S. leaders from Congress to the White House. These are the same networks of power trafficking more children than ever. How would you deal with this? And that was in response to sect wars. The days in the designated terrorist organizations operate freely in our hemisphere is over. We are tracking them. We are killing them. We'll keep killing them so as long as they poison our people with narcotics. Now, over the last week, there's been a lot coming out about Venezuela, about whistleblowers, about the stolen election, about who's affiliated with it, associated with it, the money trails. Cuban officials this last weekend reached out to Washington, D.C. and the Trump administration in a move that nobody expected. Havana would never admit it in daylight. Elements inside the Cuban regime have opened discreet channels to U.S. officials to discuss what the post-Maduro Venezuela might look like. The timing isn't accidental. The U.S. has surged military assets into the Caribbean. Maduro's inner circle is rumored to be fracturing, and multiple intelligence services have picked up chatter that Caracas is testing the waters on an exit deal. So Cuba wants to be in on this. In other words, Cuba's scared. See, if Maduro, remember I told you I think what I believe Trump's plan is. Trump denied Maduro the $200 million to go off. He said, just leave, get out of the country. The moment that he gets to Qatar, the moment he gets to another foreign country, he's going to be extradited to the United States, and he is going to be the key witness in all of this. And he's going to take down the integration of Cuban intelligence, of British intelligence, MI6, the money funneling through the various different dark money channels, Arabella, George Soros. Yes, George Soros is directly associated and affiliated with this. People are like, well, how can you make that? Well, here, how about this? Lord Mark Malloch Brown. That's the London banker, directly there, Rothschild money, directly with George Soros, Open Society Foundations, ran the damn organization after 2020. And from 2014 to 2020, while he was an executive over at the Open Society Foundation, helped collude with the Democrats to take down Donald Trump, internal coup to our country. Lord Mark Malloch Brown was CEO of Smart, the Venezuelan company. Pretty simple. You can string all of this together. And what is it all building up to? Well, you heard Lara Logan talking about it. You have a foreign paramilitary organization active on the United States soil. Well, this is why you have the Northern Hemisphere or the Western Hemisphere Command by the United States Army, the WHC, being formed. This is why you have 10,000 troops sitting in Puerto Rico, a whole U.S. Navy fleet in the Caribbean, while you have 20,000 American troops on the southern border, while you have National Guard deployed to various different states in the United States of America. It's strategic planning. It's understanding that there's a threat directly inside your country. And at a moment's notice, you need to be able to deploy your military within your own country, not within a matter of days, within a matter of hours. The color revolution, General Michael Flynn, purges collapse inside the CIA and the path to national recovery. He goes, this is my follow-up, which exposes how international purges, DEI-driven activism, and mandate-era coercion collided with America's intelligence agencies and why they attempted ideological remaking of the federal government ultimately failed to consolidate. It traces the decisions that accelerated institutional collapse with the officers who refused to bend and the structural reforms now required if the republic is to recover. It's an excellent read on Substack. I highly recommend go checking it out. And that one that I read earlier about the national security strategy, that's already published on our Substack. And it's the top article that's on my Substack right now. You can go find that and read that and share that. Oh, actually, I didn't read that one. I read one that I'm about to actually publish probably today or tomorrow morning. But redpillproject.substack.com if you guys want to check us out there. Now, I want you to test the water, see the precedent. Watch who's aligning with Donald Trump. Watch who's deviating from Donald Trump. So you have Governor Abbott in Texas going out there declaring the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, right? The Council on American Islamic Relations. He designated them foreign terrorist organizations. Then he demanded the Trump administration, Trump administration came out and declared factions of the Muslim Brotherhood, foreign terrorist organizations, up for review, pending review, and they're reviewing those right now. But Florida, Ron DeSantis, just designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terrorist organizations. So this is two states back to back that are doing this. And I think that this is huge because, number one, CARE has a super PAC, and this super PAC is being utilized to fund very, very pro-Islamic, fundamental Sharia law Islamics into office like Mandani. And I think that this is one of the main reasons they're doing it. But I think that I said the next foreign terrorist organization declaration that's going to come out from the Trump administration is going to be the Council on American Islamic Relations CARE. And so this is coming. And why is that coming? Because we don't want to turn into Europe. We don't want to turn into a shithole that's overrun by illegal foreign nationals that want to treat our country like they treat their own. What was it? It was Ilham Omar and the Gang of Five over there the other day that were talking about this. They said, you know, America was built by immigrants from Africa and Somalia and the Middle East. No, it wasn't. If they did so much to help create our country, then why is their countries looking like the way they do? Why don't they go back there and build their own countries up? Just saying. Now, we've been talking about this. A little change up in the Trump administration. You'll listen to the hints that are given in this video because you're going to hear what I've been telling you.
I would, and sort of roving ambassador or whatever the hell the president needs at this point in time. We're almost a year into his administration.
So he just said there, he was talking about his role. He goes, I'm a roving ambassador or whatever the hell the president needs. Listen to that part. He's talking about his role with the Trump administration.
I would, and sort of roving ambassador or whatever the hell the president needs at this point in time. We're almost a year into his administration. We're seeing the challenges that are coming, that are going to be hitting him left and right. Trump wants to be the peacetime president, and he is. He's done so much to stop many of these fights around the world.
Could he have a better selection as a pipe hitter to take on the deep state than Mike Flynn? Could you name one?
Not one,
sir.
Not one. No, Steve. Yeah. I mean, if he put me in that role, Steve, they would shit their pants. Excuse my Irish.
General Mike.
They would shit their pants if he puts me in that role, and I think that it's coming. There's 2 points of what I think's coming. Number one is you're going to see a departure from some very high-level, high-profile person from the Trump administration. I'm not going to tell you who I think it is or who I've heard rumors of who I thought it is, but just listen to this video.
He's going to have a fun next year, but we're going to put him on the campaign trail too. Typically, just a little bit of campaign speak, if I may.
Yeah.
Typically, in the midterms, it's not about who's sitting at the White House. It's you localize the election.
Right.
And you keep the federal officials out of it. We're actually going to turn that on its head.
Good.
And put him on the ballot because so many of those low propensity voters are Trump voters.
Yes, they are.
And we saw a week ago Tuesday what happens when he's not on the ballot and not active. So I haven't quite broken it to him yet, but he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again.
Oh.
For all these people.
Susie Wiles telling Donald Trump what he's going to do. I wonder who it is that could be leaving the Trump administration. And I know Trump came out the other day and he's like, oh, Susie doing such a good job. Oh, Susie Wiles is going to be leaving. Now, what does that mean? That means that an opening comes up. And I think Dan Scavino would be a very good chief of staff that comes in. But there's a potential that it could be someone like Mike Flynn or the National Security Advisor role, Mike Flynn. You know, Trump hasn't announced the National Security Advisor role yet. I think it's coming. But I think one of the first hurdles for that is the removal of Susie Wiles, because from what I gather, she is the main one blocking a lot of this. You got to remember, Susie Wiles is a Bush Republican. She's a kind of a neocon that's been a FARA agent with India. She worked on Netanyahu's campaign back in the early 2000s. She lobbied for pharmaceutical companies. I just from her background, I don't want her in the White House near Trump. We've heard report after report. I want to say rumor, but it's not rumor. It's been confirmed by multiple sources. We've heard report after report where she's withheld information directly from Donald Trump. She's got to go. And this is a prime example of what we're talking about. Donald Trump was caught on a hot mic earlier today. I want you to listen to this because there's a coup going on right now in Washington to undermine Trump. Listen what he says.
Hey, Jeff, you know I cannot appoint anybody. Huh? I can't appoint anybody. Everybody I've appointed, their time is expired. And then they're in default. And then we're losing.
I can't appoint anybody. They're messing up his appointments. President Trump is caught on a hot mic calling out Republicans for allowing Democrats to run the clock down on his administration. I can't appoint anybody. Everybody I've appointed has had their time expired. Then they're in default. Then we're losing. Mr. President, if you are listening or if you hear this, here's a little tip and suggestion. We're coming into an election year. Not all senators, but some senators are going to be on that ballot. But there's a hell of a lot of Republican congressmen, all of them, who will be on that ballot. There's a lot of aid and grants that go to their states. What I would recommend, Mr. President, That if Senate wants to play this game, if the House Republicans want to play this game, stop fucking endorsing them. When an endorsement recommendation comes through your office and says, hey, can you put this out on True Social? Say, no, I'm not endorsing that person. He's helping block these appointments in my administration. Actually, what I would say to the entire Republican Party in both houses, you're not going to have any more endorsements from Donald Trump whatsoever until I get my cabinet filled, until all of these people are put in their positions. And if they want to play even more, and if you really want to play hardball, we'll remove the financing, the funding, the grants from your state. Just like he threatened with governors who were not going to let ICE in. Come on, Mr. President, let's play hardball. Immediately stop and seize all endorsements for Senate and Congress immediately. It's that simple. Watch how fast they go out there and they appoint your selections to those positions. Prime example. This is the sabotage of what's going on right now. Trump's former personal lawyer, Alina Habba, resigns as acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey. Now, Pam Bondi came out and said, hey, look, she's going to come over as a special assistant to me of the DOJ. You have to understand, they put Alana in there for a reason. They put Lindsay Halligan over in the Eastern District of Virginia for a reason. Why? Because they knew it would ultimately fail, because it delays the time frame. The whole objective for the deep state, and I don't give a shit if it's the Republican deep state or the Democrat deep state, it's the deep state. You got to remember, they are protecting a system, not people. This is the big thing that most people, most pundits out there in politics don't understand. It's not that they're protecting their interest or their agenda. They're protecting the system. The system is what's at the Supreme Court right now, the fourth branch of government, that enriches themselves through the bureaucracy that they form, that allows their policies and contracts and negotiations to continue to happen. Their objective with Donald Trump was to stall Donald Trump for 2 fucking years, as long as they humanly possibly could, so that we could at least get to the midterms, overthrow the election, get the Republicans out of the House, take it back, and impeach Donald Trump. That is their whole strategy and plan. And guess what? It's working. And unless some heads begin to freaking flow, it's going to work. They're going to get their wish. Now, I don't know if Donald Trump is listening to this or if he listens to anything that people say, but I hope that he hears. You need to eradicate the deep staters from within your current cabinet and administration. Say goodbye, fired. You're fired. You need to bring in outsiders, the ones that are out there screaming right now, telling you exactly what needs to be done. These are the people you need to bring in. Oh, Tom Rentz. Perfect example right here. Attorney Tom Rentz puts this up there. Bondi and Blanche are blaming judges for their own incompetence. There's no question that we may have many issues with activist judges, but they intentionally botched the Comey case. The law is clear. Comey and James cases were dismissed because they were filed by Halligan, whom they knew could not be appointed. Halligan was set up to fail by the DOJ. Blaming judges for following the plain language of the law is absurd. The Comey case was filed so Bondi could pretend to act while ensuring it would fail and place Comey beyond a statute of limitations. This is completely unacceptable. Section D explicitly states that after 120 days, the district court appoints the special counsel. This isn't judicial activism. It's DOJ corruption. Bring Tom Rentz in for Sidney Powell, Attorney General. Come on. Pam Bondi's got to go. And I don't care. Like, so here's my thing. I'm the one that said that Comey made a deal and that the Trump administration is most likely going to either reveal that deal or not, but hide it and allow him to walk. Comey's walked. So did they do that intentionally? Did Pam Bondi do that at the direction of Donald Trump, appoint Lindsay Halligan? We know that she was not legally able to do this, and then it'll overturn that conviction when the statute of limitations is done, and now Comey walks, but they got all the information from him because he was one of the whistleblowers that testified anonymously. Very good possibility. Do I care? No, Pam Bondi's got to go. I don't like her. I think that she is more of a nuisance than not. We have 4 grand juries impaneled: Virginia, Florida, Pennsylvania, New York. We've seen 2 indictments only from the Eastern District of Virginia, and they both were overturned by a judge because the Trump DOJ fucked up. Whatever happened to Brennan? You have enough evidence on Obama, Clinton, Soros, Brennan, Joe Biden, Mayorkas, Ray, to indict these people 10 times over. And that's just public declassified information. It doesn't take a fucking genius. Where are the arrests, President Trump? Where are the arrests, Pam Bondi? My thoughts is there is a silent coup going on right now with the Trump administration. There are the administrative bureaucrats in the place right now that are impeding this from happening. People like Pam Bondi, Susie Wiles, they are just the ones that, I don't know what happened, Mr. President. Oh, yeah, I told them to do this. And, well, who is it? I want to fire them. Well, we don't know. I mean, it was word of mouth and nobody. This is the shit that's probably going on. And then Tina Peters. So people are saying that this is a big deal. I disagree. And I know Patrick Byrne put this out last night. I get mad and I deleted a post today because I don't think that this is a big deal. Okay. So the Ticton Law Group supplement to application for presidential pardon for Tina Peters. No application number has been assigned yet. Dear Mr. President, I know you're aware that Tina Peters is a 70-year-old Gold Star mother and that her trial was a travesty where she was not permitted to raise her defenses. I could go on as to her character, but I prefer to take this opportunity to explain why Tina Peters is a critical and necessary witness to the most serious crime perpetuated against the United States in history. They stole our whole country for 4 years, Dominion and its employees, and it goes on. And he calls for Trump to pardon Tina Peters. See, this won't work. MJ says here, Peter Tickin, representing Tina Peters, just sent President Trump an urgent letter stating that Tina Peters is a critical material witness against Dominion and its employees who operate in illegal operations supported and controlled by foreign actors to steal the 2020 election. She holds the only surviving forensic copy of Colorado's 2020 Dominion voting data and must be pardoned immediately so she can testify and expose the theft of the presidency. Dominion and its employees operate an illegal operation on our soil, which was supported and controlled by foreign actors. The Colorado Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, aided and abetted Dominion in foreign countries in targeting Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters. First, Dominion directed Mrs. Griswold to assist in deleting all the data from the Dominion brand election equipment by ordering a statewide trusted build. Secondly, Dominion demanded criminal charges be brought up against Clerk Peters when discovered that she had the only copy of the 2020 election data pursuant to conducted on Dominion brand equipment. Clerk Peters' copy of data was lawful, and she was entitled to image and preserve the 2020 election data pursuant to the contract Dominion signed with her on as the Mesa clerk of Mesa County. Moreover, Clerk Peters was required to preserve the evidence of the election for 22 months pursuant to Federal Law 52 U.S.C. 20701. Clerk Peters' lone copy of the Colorado 2020 election is essential. Moreover, it is explained below regarding the current investigations. Clerk Peters is necessary material witness. She can testify as to the chain of custody, corroborate recent responses to search warrants, etc. Now, I'm with everybody that Tina Peters needs to get out of prison immediately. But here's the thing. Tina Peters is in prison under a state charge. Donald Trump's pardon would have zero effect whatsoever because it only deals with federal charges. The DOJ has initiated an investigative review of Tina Peters' case. That's being headed by Todd Blanche, Assistant Attorney General, the same one who is screwing up everything else. So, what is a good method that could actually get Tina Peters out of jail immediately? And this could be done by her own team in Colorado almost immediately. because I guarantee you I am spot on right with this right now. The DOJ can end this very quickly. The DOJ has already expressed interest in reviewing her case at the federal level, reportedly assessing whether prosecution and conviction were politically motivated. That opens the door for a civil rights or oversight investigation. Through this, the DOJ can subpoena the evidence. So Susan, hold on, I want to correct something here. Susan Blee said, Josh, it was a federal election. Federal elections are run at the state level. Okay. Tina Peters was charged in a state court. She was charged with state crimes, and she is in jail under those crimes. It is not a federal crime that she was in violation of. It's state crimes. That's what I want you to understand. She is in prison in the state of Colorado, not in a federal penitentiary. Trump cannot pardon state crimes. Okay. Through the DOJ, they can subpoena the evidence. Why does this matter? Because it's almost guaranteed that the state of Colorado destroyed the hard drive evidence that Tina Peters had in her case. They would not preserve this evidence with the chance that Trump comes back into power. At the state level, they could keep this in appeals for 4 years very quickly and easily. Keeping the evidence active validates election fraud and shows a larger conspiracy. Why does this matter in the Tina Peters case? Spoliation of evidence. The deliberate destruction of material evidence relevant to a criminal case. Courts view this as a direct violation of due process. It can justify reversal of conviction, ordering a new trial, sanctions against the state, federal habeas relief. The federal habeas relief is the big one. Brady violation. If the drive contained evidence that could show innocence or impact sentencing, destroy could be considered suppression or destruction of exculpatory evidence. That alone can overturn a conviction. Brady versus Maryland, 1963. Brady versus Maryland. Now, I want you to understand that this case is already in appeals. All right? This case is already in appeals. Federal civil rights violations. Destructive evidence central to the defendant's right to appeal could violate Fifth Amendment due process, Sixth Amendment right to fair trial, 14th Amendment equal protection. Under 42 U.S.C. 1983, this becomes civil rights lawsuit with real impact. Obstruction of justice, and it goes on. So if her lawyers really wanted to try something, it's already in the appeal process. They could request through subpoena to view the evidence in the case. State of Colorado is holding on to that evidence. Guess what? They've already destroyed it. If they destroyed it, she walks out tomorrow. I don't know if they looked at that angle. Just my thoughts. Holy shit, we're already at an hour. All right, one more right here real quick. Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again. All right. And see, there's some other problems here with this administration. And it's not Trump. See, what Rubio, Hegseth, and Trump are doing, this is like the primary three, is what Trump promised, is exactly what we've been talking about, producing the multipolar world, going out there and creating a parallel economic system with Bissett and Wyckoff, right? This is exactly what we said was going to happen. But internally, prosecuting the deep state, that's where the coup is occurring. And I'm wondering what's going on with Cash Patel. Cash Patel says he shuts down the conspiracies over the Trump shooter theories. There's no foreign fingerprints, no cover-up, no manifesto. Thomas Crooks acted alone, didn't leave anything, didn't tell us why he did it. That's it. Did you notice the J6 pipe bomber Autistic kid, probably has an alibi for where he was that day. Very mute, antisocial. Most likely did not do this. His parents are very, very adamant that he had nothing to do with this. I bet he walks. But this is covering up for the Capitol police officer who's a CIA agent who is directly involved with it. Now, maybe they don't want to break out a national scandal that's going to cause the people an uproar. I don't know. And that's why they're covering that up. But then on the other side, Thomas Crooks, lone shooter. And what we're going to find out about Tyler Robinson, probably a lone shooter. I'm sick of lone shooters. Once we accept the fact that there was more people involved than one, then we can move on with reality, because that's the truth in the matter. And the fact that we're playing this fucking game with this administration, with this FBI director, is concerning. The fact that you have the Biden DOJ, the Biden FBI that did the investigation in the J6 pipeline bomber, did the investigation into the Thomas Crooks. And we're set to believe that Kash Patel walks in there, looks at all the evidence that the Biden administration did and says, oh, yeah, it's just lone shooters. I'm not buying it. And here's my thoughts as well. All this information was coming out this last week that Christopher Wray of the FBI sat on this information of the J6 pipe bomber for 4 years. That they knew who he was 4 years ago and did nothing with it. You want to know what that actually tells me? It tells me that they were not going to use it unless they needed to against Trump or use it as ammunition. But also, it tells me that he's most likely a patsy and not the real pipe bomber. It's almost like they are planting the evidence 4 years ago for the Trump administration to find right now, just in case, to take the dog off the trail of the CIA and Capitol Police involvement. And Kash Patel just eats it all up. Now, I don't know if he's being told to do this, if someone's whispering in his ear, if this was what, his purpose is. I don't fucking know. But something's wrong here. Something's off here. And I'm hoping that we figure it out. Israel spied on U.S. and allies at base to plan Gaza's future because, well, trust is optional now. Israel spying on U.S. and its allies over what they're going to do with Gaza, that's called espionage. And they shouldn't be an ally anymore. Just saying. That's all I'm going to say about Israel today. The new defense spending bill sits at $900 billion with $400 million included for Ukraine. No. Why are we giving Ukraine anything? There's massive information coming out about the corruption of Ukraine. This is happening during the Biden administration. Do you remember the Secretary of Commerce in Ukraine died in a helicopter crash the day after he whistle blew on the Ukrainian cabinet for embezzling billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer money? I remember it. I wrote a fucking blog about it. Now we were sending more money over there when an investigation's already opened up to billions of dollars being embezzled out of Ukraine to foreign bank accounts to buy houses and yachts. Mr. President, veto that bill when it hits your desk, for goodness sake. Now, going back into the Trump plan, this is kind of genius. 20 plus House Republicans are expected to announce their retirement this next week. As in, they're not rerunning for Congress. Now, I find that interesting. But when you look further, you see something completely different. I'm trying to move it over. I know you don't see it, but I'm trying to move it over. There it is. Okay. The majority of them are running for Senate or governor. The majority are running for governor. Marsha Blackburn, governor. Tommy Tuberville, governor. Elise Stefanik, governor. David Schweizville, governor. Tom Tiffany, governor. Nancy Mace, governor. Ralph Norman, governor. Dusty Johnson, governor. Randy Fritzstra, governor. John Rose, Byron Donald, Andy Biggs, governor. It's almost like Donald Trump is trying to get his loyalists and people as governors of states or state representatives through the Senate. Because at the end of the day, this is what's really going to matter. At the end of the day, when this country becomes more and more divided, it's the people that control those states that are really going to control the future of this country. And if you think about it in the context of the deep state, the moves that they're making, potential civil war, blue states kind of diverging and moving away. If we have free, fair, and open elections with Trump-endorsed candidates in 2026, we're going to overwhelmingly win. And if this is the other part. So that's happening right now. The eradication of the voting systems, right? The voter fraud. This is what the Venezuela stuff's all about. This is why this is all coming out. But then you have members of Congress and Senate leaving, retiring. They're Trump loyalists, and they're going to put them in states. Some of them blue states, which with free and fair elections will most likely win. Now, why is the Trump administration doing that? If you go back quite a few months, I talked about we need a constitutional convention, something that hasn't happened in over 100 years. With the Constitutional Convention, we'd be able to put the Sovereign Wealth Fund directly into the United States Constitution to where it limits specifically how much Congress can actually go in there and allocate towards the national debt or towards the monetary budget. We can put in the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. We can go in there and put a Digital Privacy Act in there. We can go in there and put a Digital Bill of Rights in there. We can remove things like the 16th Amendment for the federal income tax. I think that this is what the Trump administration is looking forward to in 2027, is a constitutional convention that changed the Constitution to bring more freedom and sovereignty towards the American people. Just my thoughts. In a bombshell memo, Biden knew his immigration plan would create chaos, but did it anyway. Damning internal memo from Biden's 2020 transition team just leaked, and it warned that rolling back Trump-era immigration policies would spark a full-blown crisis at the border. A potential surge could create chaos and humanitarian crisis, overwhelm processing capacities, and imperil the agenda of the new administration, Biden's advisors wrote. The memo predicted exactly what happened. Surges in illegal crossings, overwhelmed detention centers, and cities scrambling to handle the fallout. Spoiler, they approved it anyway. Why? My opinion, it was the intentional invasion of the United States of America. You got to remember, they were in cahoots with Venezuela. They're in cahoots with George Soros and that NGO integration of that transnational criminal cartel. Paul Campo, former high-ranking DEA official under Obama, indicted for conspiring to launder $12 million to support foreign drug cartels. Isn't that interesting that comes out a week after Patrick Byrne, Lara Logan are saying that there's members of these cartels and these foreign intelligence agencies in our DEA, within our CIA, within our intelligence agencies, within the White House? Oh, Glenn Hartford, I'm correct. I'm 100%. Fuck 2027. We need it now. I agree with you. But patience. It's been revealed that since Trump took office, Illinois Governor Pritzker has released 1,700 individuals with active ICE detainers, including those accused of convicted of serious violent offenses, back into the community. This is insane and should be punishable. I mean, where's the DOJ opening up the investigation into these radical governors? Pritzker is just one of them. The investigation that's actually opened up right now is Waltz here in Minnesota. The massive Somali fraud scandal exploding under Tim Waltz's watch is now officially being called the biggest in Minnesota state history. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this today. We are discovering that Minnesota state welfare funds somehow made their way overseas. The money is being tracked to the Middle East and Somalia, and we must get to the bottom of how it was used. Ilham Omar tried to downplay this, gaslighting the American people. When you come up to this country, you learn which side of the road to drive on, stop at stop signs, and above all, not defraud the American people. And what he's trying to hint at is that people in the Middle East and Somalia were claiming U.S. welfare benefits. Checks were being sent overseas, people. Let's listen to this. You got to play a minute and 10 seconds of Stephen Miller to truly encapsulate what is about to happen here.
This scandal is going to rock the core of Minnesota politics and American politics. We are going to be able to show through whether it be willful blindness, whether it be deliberately turning the other way, or whether it be direct knowledge, we are going to show how Democrat politicians, Democrat bureaucracies, Democrat political systems, and the Somali refugee population ripped off the American people, stole countless taxpayer dollars, and engaged in scams that boggle the mind, scams that we can scarcely even conceive of or imagine in their brazenness. This truly underscores the extent to which the Democrat Party has used migration as a weapon against the American people to gain political power at the expense of American citizens, stealing their money, stealing their votes, stealing their sovereignty. This is going to be case in point for the argument that President Trump has made about why we must stop mass third-world migration into this country. It is a tool the Democrat Party has used to rob the American people blind.
And not only that, and then the states corrupt it within their own centers. And we're talking billions upon billions of dollars. And yes, that money flowed into Keith Ellison's office, the Attorney General. Yes, that money flowed into the political centers of the Democrats here in Minnesota. And yes, the DOJ better investigate this fully and better have indictments for Tim Walz and his entire cabinet. Shout out to Breadmaker62, gifted 5 subscriptions. Thank you so much, Breadmaker. I appreciate that. Appreciate all the support to those people that got those subscriptions. Do think about renewing that. I appreciate you guys and looking to see if anything else came up. Didn't see anything else there. So Senator Mike Lee was just at the Supreme Court earlier today listening to the oral arguments and says that the justices now have a chance to overturn Humphrey's executor, restoring Article 2 powers of the President of the United States, freeing us from the bureaucratic tyranny. Guys, this is so huge. This is what I was talking about earlier with the Supreme Court decision. I had these later on, so we'll listen to it.
I just finished watching arguments at the Supreme Court in a case involving the constitutionality of president's authority to fire executive branch bureaucrats. Now, Article 2 of the Constitution vests the president with the executive power and also the responsibility to execute the laws. When the president sees that the laws aren't being implemented consistent with what he deems appropriate, he should be able to fire them. And that's what the Constitution contemplates. There's a Supreme Court ruling from about 100 years ago called Humphrey's executor. And Humphrey's executor says that the president can't fire those employees, especially if they're part of certain multi-member lawmaking and law enforcement commissions that are sort of a hybrid. The Supreme Court appears dissatisfied with that, and it looks like there are 5, probably 6 justices who are ready to strike down Humphrey's executor. It would be a good day for America and for the Constitution if they did that. Look forward to seeing how the court decides this.
It's huge. It is literally the dismantling of the deep state, the administrative bureaucracy. Huge. All right. Go into here. I'm looking to see if there's relevance here. Oh, yeah. This is a good one. Let's listen to Rubio real quick. Only a minute. Listen to Rubio real quick, because this falls in line with exactly what we're just talking with Humphrey's executor. Because you have to remember, these groups that operate, they hire in NGOs, NPOs, think tanks. This is where the government contractor aspect of the deep state fits into all this. Listen to this, though.
What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description. What would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with your health care needs. Then we would drive over to Northern Virginia somewhere, find an NGO, one of these organizations, give them all the money, tell them go to this country and do their health care program for them. That NGO would then take about, some percentage of that money for their overhead and administrative costs. And by the time it got down to it, the host country had very little influence. It was sort of imposed on them. And only a percentage of the overall money ever actually reached the patients and the people on the ground that we were trying to help because of these costs. This makes no sense. So why are we hiring American and international NGOs to go into other countries and run healthcare systems that are parallel and sometimes in conflict with the healthcare systems of the host country? If we're trying to help countries, help the country. Don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. And so that's what the model that we're breaking. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya are either have no role to play or have very little influence over how healthcare money is being spent.
Wow. All of these steps are just pieces of dismantling the deep state infrastructure, of what created it, that were in place by the globalists. And then Michael Hooligan will definitely agree with this one. Military is the only way to ensure that our supremacy reigns true.
Yeah, I mean, we have not, if you look back over the arc of our deployment history over the last few years, we haven't had a lot of American combat power in our own neighborhood. I think that's, I suspect that's probably going to change. We'll see what we're ordered to do, and of course we follow that guidance, but we're definitely spending some time there now.
I love Dan game. But I think that's about to change. Imagine the U.S. military setting up bases and deploying in the Western Hemisphere. That's what's about to happen. Imagine U.S. military bases in Central America and South America that are built up in third world countries that propped up their economies and helped them build their countries up. Going back, I mean, this is all about the dismantling of the old guard, of the deep state, of the transnational criminal cartels. And at the second point, it's about securing the resources in their absence that allows the United States to become a hyperpower in artificial intelligence and technology. And this is where the Genesis mission actually comes in. The Genesis mission, I think it was called Genesis Project Mission. 30,000 scientists are going to be given the most advanced high-end artificial intelligence to develop new technologies. Well, I'm telling you right now, they've already pre-fed this with more than just technologies, with reverse engineering of exotic technologies that they had in SAP programs. And how do you get this out to the public without saying that, hey, we hid this from you for 70 years? Genesis problem. Oh, I'm telling you. 10 years, it's going to be amazing to be in this country if everything keeps on moving the way it's moving and we get rid of the infiltrators that are embedded within the Trump administration. All right, what else did we have? We did that. Oh, we already did all these. Okay, cool. Let me see if we have anything else here. This was cool. We've talked about this before, and this is Southern Command. And so U.S. Southern Command military forces deployed the Southcom, AOR, area of operation in support of Operation Southern Spear, Department of War directed operations, and POTUS priorities to disrupt illicit drug trading, trafficking, and protect the homeland. So when you go in here and you see this soldier collage, what do you notice about his helmet? Right there. That's the Jerusalem cross. It's the same tattoo on Pete Hegseth's chest. The First Crusaders. Just saying. Fighting against tyranny and corruption around the world. Man, what an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing time to be alive. Let me go in here real quick. We'll do this one. if you're using Rumble, if you haven't used Rumble Premium, guys, go out there and get Rumble Premium, man. This stuff is awesome what they're doing. They're teaming up with Perplexity. So looking for smarter ways to browse and enjoy your favorite content without ads, get Perplexity Pro Bundle with Rumble Premium for just $19.99 a month when you sign up before December 31st, normally a $29.99 value. With Rumble Premium, you'll get an ad-free viewing experience across all your devices and access to exclusive premium content. No interruptions, just the videos and streams you love anytime, anywhere. Plus, Perplexity Pro boosts your productivity with unlimited research, unlimited uploads, exclusive member perks, and access to the latest and most advanced AI models for faster, smarter answers every day. Save over 30% on this powerful bundle. Head to rumble.com/premium. before December 31st to sign up and unlock your premium experience. And I would highly recommend that. We are, Alpha and I will be starting a premium show here in the next few weeks. I think beginning of next year is when we're going to be launching a few new shows. So something to definitely keep in mind. And we have to do premium content to stay on the creator program that Rumble has. So, get that subscription if you can afford it. It's awesome. Or just subscribe to us because all of our members will get all of our premium content on all of our platforms anyway. So just keep that in mind. Guys, I appreciate you. I think you're amazing. I appreciate all the support, all the donations, all of the subscriptions that came in today. If you guys want to help support us in any way, shape, or form, like I was saying, one of the best places, Substack. I got a new blog coming out. There's one up there right now about the national security strategy, redpillproject.substack.com. Go check that out. Don't forget to pick up your immune modulating mushrooms, especially all the different treats that they have for your pets, as well as the mushrooms for yourself, redpills.tv/mushrooms. If you want to find all the different ways to support us, easiest way, redpills.tv, redpills.tv. The bottom, there's two buttons, support and follow, or social, and you can find how to follow us and how to support us right there. I did do a crypto course. If you're interested in getting that crypto course, I figured it out and we got it all set up now. But redpills.tv/crypto course. It's like a 4-hour long course that I go through teaching you about the changing economies, what the new parallel economy is rising up, how it's happening, why blockchain is so important, what blockchain is, crypto, Bitcoin, all of that. redpills.tv/crypto course. Much love, respect, guys. God bless. I hope you guys have an amazing night. I'm going to leave you with this piece of music that I wrote the lyrics and some of the guitar pieces to. I hope you guys enjoy it. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. And I'll see you tomorrow.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Still calls, we the people. lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!